I have reached a moment of my life that is undeniably forward, in part because my life has felt more like a series of regressions that might be the essence of regrets. Growing up with finding the sides of me that I most relished be vaporized and replaced with parts of me that I did not know I could even have. One of those parts that I most cherished was my tenacity, but the part of me that grew via abusive relationships was a surprising neediness that stemmed from always being abandoned, but never left alone. You have to go back to the old you, Deandra, declared my mom, and she was totally right. You have to put your dreams first this time. I'm sorry for what happened to you, especially with your dad, but you cannot stay in the graves other people put you in. And that was the truth so poetically put. I was in a grave. I had loved so many wrong people that I let myself be buried underground so as to avoid them. My days passed like water, rippled by dreams I never approached because loving others and feeling drowned by them, their needs, their wants, took a lot of swimming time. Now that very woman that inadvertently taught me how to drown well for the sake of others was telling me to stop, and I did not know how. I did not know how to not feel like their ghosts, because that was the truth. If they moved on to achieve their dreams, fool others into believing they were only ever kind, while I stayed buried, then it was I that was haunted. I really loved him, Deandra, said Amor. We were looking out at the NYC skyline, eating our leftover pasta and having two deep conversations about everything from why does kettle corn taste like that to perhaps our zodiac signs are a part of a matrix system. Then inevitably we landed on our wounds. With Amor, aka my baby cuz, I felt protective. I saw in her the part of me that everyone ignored because I always handled life, even when others dumped theirs on me. But my burnout was flaming strong, and I had a fear would never end. What if I always burnt out? Too existentially fatigued to do anything but plan meals and write occasional articles on top 10 Netflix series to binge in October. How could he have not seen that, said Amor, that I loved him? Her eyes glazed in wonder at a lesson she was beginning to discover. In a world where you need no one, to want them is to love them. I've seen the best of people, even at their worst, and while that seems beautiful, I do not regret such a gift. I do regret not giving that gift to myself. I lived seeing my worst and being manipulated to do so by older, grimier men like my dad. Yet I'm older now, and he's gone, and the gift, I'm still not giving it to myself. You think that is why you feel stuck? I asked tenderly. You're still loving someone who's gone and hating the person here, aka you. I laughed, and Amor giggled as I elaborated the you. I don't love him, she responded, even though Mommy says I should. I don't think he loves me either, and that's what hurts. He stopped loving me first, and now I'm just catching up. Maybe that was it, I thought. Our freeze mode was the parts of us we left catching up with the parts of us we became, and duking it out in body and soul to figure out who the new version of us could be. How to be strong without being jaded, how to be intuitive without being paranoid, how to be smart without being anxious, how to be open while being selective. Heartbreak teaches you balance, but when the heartbreak is apparent, you find years can go by before you even realize the lack of equilibrium. I did not want Amor to go through the same, riding through life on survival mode because she could handle pain, but no one ever taught her happiness. All right, let's discuss, let's heal. So Amor is my big cousin, and I love her a lot. And remember, these are a combination of characters, don't go stalking. But we both have been abandoned by our fathers, and I think the difference between me and her is that my father was very abusive, very cruel, very manipulative. Just he saw me and thought psychological warfare. Whereas with her, she had this. Her father was very, very good to her, treated her like a little princess, and then came out of the closet and acted like he never had children. And I think that switch, there's just different reasons to feel bad about the same event. I hate that I don't have a dad. I hate that I never did. And she hates that she did. And somehow he just evaporated. And he became one of the most selfish, self centered, emotionally shut down man. I mean, he's just living it up in Fire Island like his crotch got lit and erased her in some ways. And it's really hard for us to talk about that because we come from a long line of women that, in some ways, were erased by men. That's just what they do. They leave, or they don't show up, or they show up with charm, but they certainly show up with harm as well, as you've seen in prior episodes. And I think in our family, especially with the newer generations like myself and Amor, there is this pressure to kind of react the same ways our parents did or our grandparents did, and how they were all taught to just react and, well, tough luck. That's life and you got to get up. And but yet they all fell into this generational pattern of somehow landing with men that left or were so insufferable that you kind of wish they left. I mean, some of my aunts, my God, when their husbands died, you would thought it was a birthday party. They threw a birthday party. They didn't throw a funeral. They were reborn. And they lived like 20 years after that. Men were this burden that I didn't understand why we invited them into our world as women if they just took from us. They destroyed us in exchange for us building them. And I think with Amor, what is happening to her is what happened to me, which was this pressure, especially in the Latino community where we suffer from so much extinction and racism and erasure historically. There is this concept of kind of unwavering loyalty, because when your community threatened by outsiders that are consistently physically, emotionally, financially, mentally tell you are not worth life, and so threaten it, threaten your existence, threaten your deserve to exist, you try to find ways to make sure that existence continues. And familial loyalty is a great cause. I mean, you can't erase a community that has decided you will never erase its sense of family. But yet and I've spoken about this in previous episodes, there are people like my father that really abuse that term, family, and push the boundaries of these human beings financially, emotionally, mentally, etc., in knowing that they will show up, knowing that they will stay. And they do the typical move of, you call me, I don't need to call you. And I think for Amor, I mean, he was, in perspective, the signs were there that he was gay. We didn't not feel that at times. But, I think there's also this bashing of men that are really in touch with their feminine. And he treated her like a doll. That was his little bestie. And the love, I remember it because I think when you have an abusive father like myself, you almost get big-eyed, like a kid tasting ice cream for the first time. You get really big eyes when you see a beautiful a father-daughter relationship. It's not even jealousy. It's just like, ugh, a little girl is safe. And not only is she safe, is she exalted. And it was almost the way he loved that little girl. You would have never, ever thought he would abandon the young woman. That he would just shut down, turn off the lights in the house, and act like he never lived there. And he's living it up. He is with a wealthy man. They are doing, their gunches, their gay brunches. And he acts like he has no kids. And occasionally he might put an Instagram post of, how he loves them, because that's what deadbeat dads do. They ask their ex-wife or their baby mama for pictures of the baby so that they could get more likes and comments under their Instagram. Um, and you would have never thought he would become that dad. And it's been really hard for her to grieve. And I want to be an outlet for her because I don't want her to fall into the same trap of kind of being led to use tools that don't work for her. I never could shut down that my dad was abusing me unless I shut down myself. And that was almost encouraged in some ways, or not seen as one and the same. And I see her shutting down, and I see her kind of getting lost because of, in my family, to be strong is a weakness, because once you become the strong one of the family, everyone's going to push your boundaries and put on you, really, especially the young girls of my family, put on you rules and regulations and demands that the boys will not have. And they will make you step up to plates that the boys don't have to, because the boys are everywhere. The boys are silly. The boys are dumb. The boys. And I know her pain. And she's younger than me. And I almost want to stop it. Even if it's just by a few years, I almost want to cut years of my life that I wasted with a giant scissor. But I needed to go through them to learn what I know now. And now I understand why elders kind of go up to youth and warn them like, life is to be lived. And grieve those that you love that did not love you back. But take that as a lesson to how you can love yourself better. When it's your dad, it's tricky, especially if he does such a personality shift. My father was manic. I mean, he could shift better than a shape. But with her, I think it was such a switch. I mean, he defined freedom as getting rid of his daughter, that little princess. And she's almost floating through life, trying to be surviving, trying to make money, to support herself through school. And she's not a princess anymore. She doesn't even feel like a queen. She could be a queen. And I don't want her to feel that way. That's why I'm trying to get better too. Our dads broke our hearts, but someone will love them. I mean, love our hearts, not them. Ugh. Stay away. Check out daddyrecovery.com. Look up how to avoid a Mr. H and do my worksheets and follow me. Let's just heal, you know what I mean?